who are all out on the practice field today. Pretty cool. The Eagles enter the 2025 season looking to become the 10th team ever to repeat as Super Bowl champs. Overall, there have been 16 instances of a team returning to the Super Bowl the season after winning it. The Eagles will have to get back there without their offensive coordinator from last season, of course, Kellen Moore. Damien, Howie Roseman keeps rebuilding the team in the draft. Is that enough, though, for them to repeat? Because they have lost a lot of guys, too, in free agency and otherwise.
Yeah, listen, some of those guys have graduated from the program, but the one thing that Howie Roseman has always done, he's a master at restocking. Sometimes with Howie Roseman, he's zigging while everyone is zagging. So he goes out here in the first round, he gets Jihaad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama, and you're talking about, a guy who's just, ultra athletic, fast, comes downhill, and then all the other picks that they added on the defensive side of the football. So, yes, while they've lost some players on the defensive side, but they continue to restock and retool. And the one thing about this Philadelphia Eagles team, they're strong in all the right places that you need to win football games. They're strong in the trenches. They got elite players on the perimeter, and obviously we know the Super Bowl MVP in Jalen Hurts. So, this organization from the top down is one of the elite franchises, and they're going to be one of the front runners in 2025.
D, with the retooling by taking young, talented players on defense, you mentioned Campbell. They now have at least 7 starters on the defensive side of the ball on rookie contracts. And Campbell was just great value. He is a luxury at that point, number 31 or 32 overall, falling to them essentially. I talked to several teams that saw him as a top 10 overall talent in the entire draft. It was essentially a durability issue. How long can he play based on the various injuries he's had? He's got a shoulder issue that could cost him some time. But the Eagles figure, hey, if he misses time, it's going to be great for us. That is all good. But Howie Roseman is breaking precedent here. The Eagles had not drafted a true linebacker since 1979 in the first round. They had never done it, didn't prioritize the position, typically didn't pay those players a lot. Now Zach Bond got paid, Jihaad Campbell in the first round. So they are clearly trusting Vic Fangio after his Super Bowl performance to develop young players at positions he cares about, like linebacker.
That was Jihaad Campbell, by the way, on the screen, who you just saw wearing number 30. Tim, there's so many ways that it can go wrong for teams, right? We know how hard it is to even get to the Super Bowl. What's the biggest challenge as the Eagles try to repeat?
I think surviving losing Kellen Moore. The reality is a couple years ago, the Eagles lost both coordinators, and they fell apart throughout the season. And I think it was hard for Nick Sirianni to kind of manage the coordinator changes. They obviously got it right a year ago. Vic Fangio's back. We're talking about him developing young players. Look, continuity is important. And so, look, no Kellen Moore when you're coaching Jalen Hurts, I think is, it's a challenge. I think Kellen Moore, what he did a great job of was bring the stuff that he was good at doing, but not abandon the stuff that Jalen had been so successful doing. And so you combine those two things together and you've got a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And so now when you make the change at that, as a play caller and just, the understanding between quarterback and play caller, I just think that can be a significant change. You see some teams really with it, and I think for Philadelphia it ends up being a hurdle if they want to get back to where they were a year ago.
Yeah, listen, if there's one thing that Jalen Hurts has dealt with is a lot of different play callers throughout his career, not only in college, but in the pros. And Tim, you're right. Like, that is something that bears watching. We know the Philadelphia Eagles are a very talented team, across the board. Line of scrimmage, perimeter, Saquon Barkley being, coming back as a 2,000-yard rusher. But anytime you mess up that play caller quarterback chemistry, it's something that you need to watch. But listen, this Philadelphia team, they're strong on both sides of the ball. I think they'll adapt, and we'll be talking about this team at the end of the year.
Yeah, by the way, Jalen Hurts can become the first Eagles quarterback to appear in 3 Super Bowls. That'd be something else. We're just getting started on NFL Live on this Friday. The seem to see the future of the NFL in their new jerseys. Look at this, rookie camp. And yes, we did set it up like actual campsites. You see the Packers there, the Seahawks, the Cowboys, So many teams, the Eagles as well, who have begun their rookie camps. We're going to check in on all of them, get the latest from there as we welcome you into NFL Live. So glad that you are with us here. Jeremy Fowler joins us. He is my suit twin today. We planned this. We didn't really, but
great minds think alike.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing like a good gray suit. Jeremy's got a lot of news, insights. We got Tim Hasselbeck, Damien Woody with us throughout, and Jordan Reed is going to join us for his way too early 2026 mock draft, but I got to say it's never too early for that. Let's begin, though, in Green Bay. We're going to hear from rookie wideout Matthew Golden. Here's what he told Jordan Love when he reached out.
He texted me literally right after I got drafted, told me it's time to go to work, congratulated me, and just told me, well, it's time to work. Come here and work.
What did you have to say to him? What did you have to say to him?
Oh, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready. I've been waiting for this moment my whole life, and to be here, like I said, I'm gonna be present, but I'm gonna let my presence be known. I'm gonna come in here and compete.
He's so much fun. He was great in front of that home crowd at the draft in Green Bay. As we welcome in Rob Demovsky, of course, our Packers reporter who was there today. Rob, how do the Packers plan to use Golden?
Laura, I'm sure you remember Matt LaFleur saying right after they picked Golden that he FaceTimed Jordan Love, and Jordan Love joked that I've got to get that arm loosened up to throw those deep balls to Golden's 4.29 second speed. But in all seriousness, what the Packers love about Golden is his versatility. They think he's more than just a deep threat receiver. Now, I asked LaFleur today, as rookie minicamp started, if he's already started to put things into the offense for Golden, and he said, well, he hasn't done that. He did during the evaluation process tell general manager Brian Gutekunst, this is how I envision using him. Obviously, Gutekunst must have liked what he heard because he went ahead and drafted him. But LaFleur said one other thing. He goes, I know that there's going to be something positive that pops up that we're going to see that we didn't see on tape that we'll be able to use with Golden. And he's going to start that process here at rookie minicamp when they hit the practice field tomorrow. Now, one note, Laura, about a veteran, the ongoing saga between the Packers and Jair Alexander. They're all pro cornerback. Is he going to play here? Is he going to get cut? Is he going to get traded? LaFleur did say that Alexander was not here this week for the voluntary in-person team activities. That's interesting to note because Alexander did take part last week when they did things virtually. They kept the players away because of all the stuff around here with the draft and logistically. So Alexander was part of the virtual stuff but was not here in person this week.
Yeah, really interesting to keep an eye on. Jeremy Fowler has an update on that in just a bit. And I must say, Rob, Lambeau's looking gorgeous today, okay, as you well know. All right, the Packers have done their best to put solid pass catchers around Jordan Love over the last 4 drafts. They've taken 7 pass catchers in the first 3 rounds, 5 wide receivers and 2 tight ends. However, Matthew Golden is the first receiver they've drafted in the first round since 2002, and it's the first time they've taken 2 wide receivers in the first 3 rounds in the common draft era. Somebody's going to say, Aaron Rodgers, where was that when I was here? Anyway, Tim, a lot of receivers for Jordan Love. What do you think, though, specifically about the addition of Matthew Golden?
I think it's great, because he's super talented. I mean, just watch it, even the highlights that we were playing there. You see his speed, and I do think he's, more versatile, as Rob Demovsky was, kind of referring in terms of the optimism, in Green Bay of what type of player he can be. And I would say, I actually think Green Bay has had a pretty good receiving core, especially when you factor in, their tight ends and the way that they've played. And so, to me, it really wasn't this glaring area of need, other than to say some of these young, productive wide receivers that they've had, they've been injured. And so because of that, I think, getting a dynamic player who's young, kind of build, into the room, I think should be really exciting for Packers fans. And so, look, they did that, but they also did other things. They still, addressed the offensive line in the 2nd and 7th round. Like, there are other things that they need to do, but I do believe the continuity in Green Bay and what they're building around Jordan Love, look, I think gives you a lot of optimism for how they're going to fare in the division.
Yeah, listen, Tim brings up a lot of good points. That receiving core is going to be one of the best, one of the more young and dynamic receiving cores in the league. I think defensively, they've continued to add pieces there, and I think that defense needs to continue to elevate. But ultimately, this falls on Jordan Love. And when you talk about Jordan Love, you're talking about a guy who's immensely talented. Sometimes can be reckless with the football. And I think if Green Bay ultimately wants to go to where they want to go and vie for a championship and win that NFC North, I think Jordan Love has to play more consistently. No one has ever questioned the talent that he has.